Hello and welcome to Sports by Compian. My name, of course, is Stephen Compian, and I'm joined here by the Mr. Shades himself, the guy who does all the kind of stuff. With at the sidelines of the Baltimore game, absolutely responsible for the Ravens losing, Mr. Dan Gill in the house. How are you, Dan?
I wouldn't say that I was responsible for the downfall of the Ravens, but
Mm,
was I in the building? Yes. Was I sitting in the second to last row at the top of the stadium? Also, yes. So I was pretty far away to do anything.
all right, I guess we'll let you off the hook for now. And joining us, of course, friend of the show, the Ham Man himself, Mr. Cooper O'Connell, is in the house as
What's up?
well. Cooper, what's going on over there, buddy?
Yeah, I actually heard that the sunlight on Mr. Shade's glasses reflected into Zay Flowers' eyes on that turnover,
I knew it.
and that's why he dropped the ball before he scored that touchdown. These are just rumors, I'm just passing along the info I get.
Well,
But
I'm glad you're sharing it with the people of Sports Night Compian because he has been talking shit about Baltimore all year long, so it only is fitting that he has condemned them in the most important game. So, boys, we've already kind of talked about it a little bit. Let's hop into it. The AFC Championship took place, and Patrick Mahomes is going back to the Super Bowl again, boys. Isn't this just great? Isn't this
Fourth
just
time in 6
exactly
years.
what everyone wanted?
it's inevitable.
It's really inedible at this point. I don't know if we're ever going to not see Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. It's starting to get crazy. But him and the Chiefs take care of business. In Baltimore, their offense was pretty decent in the first half here. Decided not to score in the second half, which apparently didn't matter because Lamar Jackson was just having an absolute nervous breakdown between him and Zay Flowers. They're going to regret this game for a long time to come. Absolute tough game from the boys. The defense, I felt like, did their part, but not enough to pick up the slack for just an absolute meltdown of the Baltimore Ravens defense. Why did they get away from the run, Cooper? What happened? Why did this take place?
It's I feel like it's the same thing that used to happen to Brady and Belichick, where teams would just overthink and shoot themselves in the foot. They were so scared of what their opponent was capable of that they abandoned what they're good at to try to throw off the other team. And more often than not, it ends up blowing up in their face. Um, the Patriots Jaguars 2017 AFC Championship game, I think, was a really good example of that. The Jaguars changed up their entire defensive scheme in the second half when they were up 20-10 because they were afraid that Tom Brady was going to figure them out. And then once they started running plays that weren't working, Tom Brady started carving them. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way, and I think that's kind of what happened to the Ravens too. They thought the run was too predictable, at least the running back handoffs were, so they didn't do it. And as the Ravens OC's wife said, just call the plays that work. They didn't do that.
Did you say that? That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the things. They just stopped running the ball. They got too nervous too quickly, some would say. Dan, you were there in person. You were a part of the downfall. What do you think? What do you think happened?
I mean, I agree. They got away from what they were kind of doing well at. Also, Lamar was just, don't get me wrong, the Chiefs defense is good. It's a good defense. It's done them well all year.
Yeah.
To put them in the position that they've been in. So I'm not taking away anything, but I mean, sure, they were getting pressure on him, but there was just some of these throws he was making. At least in my opinion, I'm not on the field and having Jones chase me down, but, I think he had a couple extra seconds to throw him, and some of these screens on the outside, he was underthrowing the ball and dropping it in front of his receivers and was just stalling drives out, so there's just mental mistakes there. There was, I'm truthfully not a huge fan of quarterbacks running a lot, but there was definitely some opportunities that he could have stepped through. We saw Brock Purdy, make the big runs when he needed to against the Lions and, Green Bay too. So, moments where you would have expected Lamar to just take off like you've seen him in the past, he wasn't. And, he was just throwing passes into places that shouldn't have been, especially that game-sealing interception to Bush. It was a 3-on-1. Like, I get that there's a big debate on whether or not that should have been, pass interference because they felt like they got to, I believe it was likely early. But regardless of that, it's like, why throw into a 3-on-1 to put that situation in there anyway? So, he was just, I don't want to say this was kind of a Lamar everybody was kind of waiting for, but you've seen it the last handful of years with him. When it kind of hits crunch time, he starts getting out of his mojo and making plays that he normally won't make. So, like you said, the defense did what they needed to do. I think I said regular season, they gave up about like 15 or some points a game. During the game, they said it was like 16 during the regular season. So I don't know where my math was off, but I trust them. But either way, their defense did what they did all year, and the fact that they shut the Chiefs out in the second half is astonishing.
Yeah.
And they kept them in this game when they really shouldn't have been in this game at all. So, it was a little too late, but they made good drives and they were just stalling out. And unfortunately, if you don't get to Tucker range, you really don't have a chance to put anything on the board. And that's saying something because that dude can bomb them.
Yeah, he sure can. Lamar Jackson with that early touchdown pass all the way downfield to Trey Flowers.
Zay Flowers, yeah.
He looked great. He definitely had a moment or two where he caught his own pass early in the first half. He had a couple moments, and then it just seemed like the lights maybe just got to him or something, and he just completely imploded. Zay Flowers himself had a pretty good game, other than like a couple crazy moves, like a taunting penalty, which ultimately wasn't that big of a deal. They ended up converting out anyway. But then, obviously that fumble in the end zone, completely costly. I get trying to go for the touchdown there, but maybe don't be greedy, man. Maybe go down at the 1 yard line. What do you think, Coop? Do you think you should be reaching across the end zone?
No.
It's so hard to say because it's like playing rugby. It's like what it's like to be right there.
Yeah, of course.
It's just too much to think about in a split-second decision. You can't really fault a guy for trying to get the ball over the plane.
Of course.
For that one, I'm gonna be in the minority and say shit happens. Like he wanted to score a touchdown. You can't really blame the guy for that. But the big mistake that I think people aren't talking about as much related to that play is how he cut his hand open, slapping the bench in frustration after that. Lamar Jackson was forcing the ball to OBJ the entire rest of the game, it seemed like, after that happened because his best receiver was off the field, and that really hurt the Ravens' offense.
Yeah, and obviously the throw to triple coverage, Isaiah Likely. What happened to Andrew? Mark Andrews, wasn't he in this game?
I mean, he was in it. Let's be real. I didn't expect him to come back at all this postseason. So I think the fact that he even showed up, but he had 2 catches, 15 yards. Obviously 17-10 is a close game, but I think he got limited down to like certain key situations, like if it's a second or third or fourth and goal, and you need a big body in there to pull one down, you're putting him in there. But I think they were trying to be a little more reserved on him in case they did make the next step. They had him, but if you don't get into a place to utilize him in that manner, then you're probably not going to see him that much.
So John Harbaugh probably should be taking a little bit more heat than some people are maybe giving him, huh? Getting away from the run, maybe not utilizing your players correctly, maybe still not having any like legit receivers besides like Zay Flowers is a rookie, isn't
he? Yeah.
Zay Flowers is great. I mean, I think this is one of those things where it's like, I just read the stat this week where no NFL team has had a coordinator that was on their team in like prior to 2021. Like teams just have a revolving door of coordinators constantly, and it's because it's like hard to pin the blame on anybody besides the coordinator in situations like this. Was it a bad game plan from John Harbaugh? Was it bad play calling from this guy? Like, we don't really know that, but it's always the coordinators that end up getting shuffled when these things happen. With a coach like Harbaugh, it's going to take a lot to. I mean, look at Bill Belichick, dude. Like Belichick's contemporaries, like Patricia and all those guys, got so much shit the last couple of years, but the dust is settled, and like the truth is that Belichick deserves more blame than he got from at least like the first 2 years of Mac Jones's downfall, in my opinion. But the coordinators kept shuffling, but the common denominator was the head coach. So it's hard to say that Harbaugh deserves a ton of blame for it because I think the real question is about Lamar Jackson's decision making in games like this. they've had their season low every time they've made the playoffs. Their season low in points on offense, which is kind of insane. It's a huge outlier, and I wouldn't put too much blame on Harbaugh. I think he's a great coach, but yeah, it's definitely something that at this point it's like gone from a young quarterback developing to like a serious issue that they can't get over this hump.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. But to some degree, though, yeah, I want to know who decided to abandon the run game. Because don't get me wrong, when you're down, it's going to force you to throw a lot, but you still got to work it in there, even if it's on a play action. They weren't even running play actions. You gotta make the defense stay honest, and they weren't even doing that. So if you know he's going to drop back every time, you're golden.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, it was Greg Roman's fault last year, and it's this guy's fault this year, and it's going to be someone else's fault next year. But if it keeps happening, then, all of a sudden, bigger questions are going to have to get raised.
I mean, Brian Billick was there for forever, and it took a long time to get him out of there, too. So, the Ravens, much like the Steelers and in New England, like, they stick by their head coaches for a long time.
I'm also not advocating for Harbaugh to get fired. I would love to have Harbaugh.
Me neither. He's a very good coach. Absolutely. Yeah. I just think this game definitely got away from some people.
We got the Harbaugh next year. I got that to look forward to.
Yeah.
Mostly, I'm just incredibly disappointed that the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl. It makes me sick. I don't want to do it. I don't even really care about the whole Swift thing. Like, good for her and Travis. I hope they're deeply in love. Who cares? I'm sick of seeing every single commercial being Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce. And then you know what? Every fucking time the guy gets hit, throw a flag. Oh my, you hit the golden boy. That's not allowed. No. What were you thinking, sir? Playing football and tackling somebody else who plays football too. Not fucking allowed. I'm sick of it, guys. I'm so fucking sick of Patrick Mahomes. Yes, he's great. He's amazing. He had some great passes in this game. He did enough to lead his team to the win. But you know what, man? I can hate on him because fuck the guy. I'm fucking sick of it. I'm sick of Cedric as a fucking fan. Cedric, if you are listening, you suck, dude. Fuck you. You don't know football. God damn it, dude. I can't wait for them to go back to irrelevant so people like Cedric can bugger off. God damn. Anyway, yeah, so that's not going to happen. Instead, the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl, probably going to win this shit. It's just fucking ridiculous. Anyway, moving on to another disappointing game. The Lions went ahead and lost to the 49ers. And, dude, damn it, Dan Campbell. Damn, dude. 24-7 going into halftime. But you know what? I blame this on that stupid safety, Gardner. Like, that dude was talking shit all year. Dude's over there waving to the 49ers fans, up 21-7. You're an idiot, sir. You're a moron. And you clearly don't watch any film. Fucking, you're the weakness of the fucking Lions, too. But also, this was just the football guys being like, you know what, Lions? You're just getting a little bit too cocky. And they came down hard on them in that third quarter. I've never seen such a crazy-ass third quarter. Like, once Brandon Ayuk caught that pass off the dude's fucking face mask, I was like, okay, I see how this story's going to end. And sure enough, that's how it went down. What do we got to say about this one, boys?
I mean, I think this goes back to my same motto of the Green Bay game, what I said before and I said after it. The 49ers are a team that if they're going to give you points, you got to take them. And I get that Dan Campbell's motto all year is go for it on fourth down. I respect it. But at some point, you just got to take the points. And, and they talked about this during the game. It's easy to sit here after the fact and be like, oh, well, instead of going for fourth down, like we have a tie game now, or you could have won it. And, it's points left on the board. So it's different in the moment. But I think going into it, like they saw what they did to Green Bay. They saw what the 49ers have done all year. They're a team that can work their way back. So put as many points as you possibly can on them and make it that much harder. That being said, I think with that fumble right after they scored, that's where the air went out of the room for Detroit. And I felt like that was game right there.
Oh, Gibbs, you got to hang on to the ball, my dude.
When they ended up tying it up 24-24, I was pretty much like, oh, well, there goes the game.
Pretty much, yeah.
The momentum had swung so much by that point. But, Jared Goff, all in all, played, a good ball again. He did what he, could to keep him in it, but, just costly mistakes. And when, your team gets a little too big for its bridges, it kind of does it. But, the 49ers are a team that they find their way. Guys get open in some of the most weird ways possible, kind of like what we saw in the Kansas City game. And they just make things happen. And, at the end of the day, they still have Christian McCaffrey over there. Albeit, he was still dealing with his hamstring issues. But, still 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's nothing to sneeze at.
And, I think I listed all kinds of crazy stats about how bad this game was for the Lions and how much they let it go. But it comes down to, man, just make a couple catches. Like Josh Reynolds, you had an amazing wild card game, and holy shit, dude, you let your team down hard in that third quarter. Just make a couple of these conversions, Dan, and you'll be fine. Cooper, what do you got to say about this madness?
I'm gonna go with a good gambling philosophy that I always say in situations like this, where just because a bet loses doesn't mean it was a bad bet. I think Dan Campbell made 2 pretty good bets. They were risky, but I liked both choices. And just because he was wrong about them in the end, like you were saying earlier, it's it's easier to look in hindsight and
Sure,
say something was right or wrong. But I think that sticking to a philosophy that got you this far is the smarter thing to do, instead of abandoning your philosophy. That's why teams like the Chargers are such a disaster. They're always just situationally terrible, and they're not consistent when it comes to these kinds of tough decisions, even though they're the analytics team. I think that with an offense like the 49ers and the defense like the Lions, I always expected the Lions defense to just falter at some point during that game and just get completely opened up. So Dan Campbell wanting to keep his offense on the field and prevent that and make his defense's life easier, I think was pretty smart. Yeah. And also their kicker wasn't that accurate for deep kicks. So I think the 1 4th down they went for on I think it was on the 30 or something, that was a little more okay. The one on the 20, I think he should have just kicked, honestly. I would kick that if I was playing Madden, but one thing you got to respect about Dan Campbell is that he's been consistent about his approach to coaching the Lions since day one, and he's not going to abandon that in the biggest game of his career. And I think that's something that, win or lose, that's a guy that you want to keep playing for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. You can't go away from what you've been doing. I think there were some stats about how this kicker wasn't exactly great from the 40-yard line. Hadn't really kicked outside of a dome. So I'm totally fine with them going for it. And at the end of the day, just your players got to make the plays, and you'll be fine. Reynolds literally had that thing bounced out of his hand a couple plays, on a crosser too. Dude, it's the fucking playoffs. Make a catch. Oh, man, and Gibbs, great year for Gibbs, dude. And then you go into the wrong gap, don't hang on to the ball. That's huge.
That was the game right there, that fumble, honestly.
That really did feel like the game right there. When I saw that, I was like, oh, boy. And, we can't take it away from Brock Purdy. I know the whole media's been after him. I don't feel like we've really been after him on this show. Maybe a couple comments here and there, but dude balled out in this game, He did the things he had to do, had some nice runs. That getting away from the defender and throwing it down to Kyle Juszczyk was pretty amazing. He's doing his thing. So hopefully he can continue to do his thing, because if it wasn't obvious already, I really hope that the 49ers can win this next game.
Yeah, because I think kind of what we heard the last couple of weeks of the narrative on the Brock Purdy was, can he play from behind? And I think it's kind of funny, they're still questioning it, even though the last 2 weeks, 24/7, 21/7, he's managed to work their way back. So I think, it's interesting to see that people are still kind of questioning his ability. I hate that people look into him being Mr. Irrelevant too much.
Yeah, way too much.
At the end of the day, he's still the dude got drafted.
Yeah. What about all those undrafted free agent quarterbacks that were good?
Yeah.
It is pretty weird.
Yeah, what about Trey Lance?
Dude.
Yeah, exactly. How many bad first overall quarterbacks has there been too? So I don't really get the media's like determination for this guy to be bad. Shouldn't you be rooting for him? He's the underdog.
Yeah. So, I think he's definitely done what they needed to do, what they needed him to do to kind of put them in this situation. He's got phenomenal pieces around him. So, I think it should be a really good game right now, I believe. Last time I checked, San Francisco's favored by 2 is the line right now. So
yeah, we're looking at it right down here. Look at that. They got a 1.5. It's a very tight situation. Hey, but by the way, we were mentioning last week, 7-point difference for the Lions. I never hopped on that because I was just very hungover on Sunday. Something may or may not have happened Saturday. But I wish I would have. They did end up covering. They did get their cover there. So anyone who hopped on that bet, good for you. Good for believing in the Lions because, yeah, that was crazy. -7. Did you get on that, Cooper?
Yeah, I had San Fran covering and the Chiefs covering, so I went 1-on-1 on Sunday.
Okay. All right. So 1 for 1. But yeah, overall, guys, we're headed into another Super Bowl here. A lot of people are saying it's very sad, disappointing. I mean, I'm sure I'll be more excited about it maybe next week. As of right now, I am not even slightly excited. But whatever. It is what it is. We got one more NFL football game.
I'm excited.
I mean, it's a repeat of Super Bowl 49.
Yeah, here we go. Repeat of Super Bowl 49. Terrific.
You know what I hope, actually? I hope it comes down to Brock Purdy having to make the throw that Garoppolo couldn't make at the end of that Super Bowl. The overthrow to Emmanuel Sanders. I hope it comes down to that exact same situation. And whether or not Brock Purdy makes that throw is going to define his entire career. And I can't wait for all the takes to follow whether or not he hits it. It's going to be interesting.
And shout out to Brendan Ayuk. I've been a little down on him because I had him in fantasy last year, and man, he fucking let me down so bad. But he's had a baller year. I think he was almost single-handedly responsible for that comeback that San Francisco had last, Sunday. Like, just how the concentration to catch the ball off the dude's face mask. Like, holy shit, dude. That's next level right there. Good for him. Really strong game out of him, and even that catch by Jennings for a first down was crazy. Like, these 49er receivers are bringing it when they have it, man.
Jennings has really stepped up in these last couple of games. It's amazing to see.
And getting back to the Chiefs, of course, I did go a little too hard on them, so we got to talk a little bit nice about them again. For example, Travis Kelce setting all-time records right now for most receptions in the postseason. Great for him. Didn't drop a ball this last week. Didn't he have 11 receptions?
Yeah, dude. Like
he's back to the old Travis.
They left him way too open all game. It was
he's a hard man to cover, to be fair.
Yeah, but dude, there was times that there was no one within 5 to 10 yards of him. Like, yeah, it's not like he was beating people one-on-one. Like, he was just flat left by himself. No one.
He's just so good at he's so good at finding holes in zones and just sitting in those holes. Like, there was definitely a few times that game where he cut his route short. And it's just one of those things where it's just like, you have to have like next level chemistry like he has with Mahomes to be able to get away with doing that and not have your quarterback just like throw a shitty interception or something. Yeah. But he knows exactly where to plant himself in the middle of a route, like during zone coverage. And I think it's like kind of underrated, like how good a field vision, like football IQ he has when he's running a route. Yeah, he knows exactly what Mahomes wants, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, he went 11 catches for 116 yards and a touchdown.
So if Patrick Mahomes wins this one, this will be his third ring. Are you getting a little jealous over there, Cooper, about this new dynasty? Does it seem like they might surpass the previous dynasty that has been ruling the NFL previous to this?
Well, according to my math, yeah, I was going to say he's still 4 rings behind the Patriots, so I'm not really too concerned about it.
Tom got
if he wins, he'll be 3 behind, but he's got to win first before I start talking about that.
You're right.
No, I mean, like, I'm not going to be a hater about it. Like, if they win their 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years, then good for them. Yeah, I mean, I'll be a hater, but I'll at least like give credit where credit's due.
I agree.
I think
there's no denying the guy's probably going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks in the league, like ever. It's kind of crazy.
I think he's already like probably arguably top 5 ever.
Oh, for sure. For sure. He's already in top 5. I think if he keeps on the trajectory he's on, he's probably going to end up the best because it's just. I'm starting to think that the whole world is just a simulation, and we're just living in Patrick Mahomes' Madden game, and we were all just waiting until he finally got to the NFL, and here we are, just living in Patrick Mahomes' Madden franchise.
Do you think if the Chiefs win, you think Andy Reid retires? Because that rumor's been out there the last handful of weeks.
I heard about
he
that.
might retire.
Nah.
So you think he might just go out on top?
No, I think he's going to stick around. I think he's waited a long time to finally be part of something great like this. Well, I think he's going to win at least a couple more.
Well, and then I saw another thing that it's like someone was like, they felt like he was trying to outweigh Belichick because he's only 50 wins behind Belichick. So it's like if you can wait him out, Belichick retires the next year or two. If he can stay an extra 5 years, I'll probably pass him in win totals.
Yeah, and Belichick's probably taking the year off too, so he has a little bit of Belichick's future is an interesting one too. Apparently,
I was shocked he didn't go to Atlanta. I want to know why that fell apart.
I don't know, but
I think he's just asking for too much power, and it's also he's not really a long-term commitment. You're not going to commit to a guy who's I think he's 71 maybe. You can't commit to a guy like that for too long. So it's just a team that a lot of things need to specifically fit in place for it to be a good fit for Belichick. And the philosophy from Belichick is that it's better to not have a job than to have a bad coaching fit, which is what the Patriots writers were saying after the dust settled with the Atlanta thing. That being said, Ben Johnson's off the table now, so that was what a lot of people thought was a surefire coaching candidate for Seattle and Washington.
Where's he going? Is he going back to the Lions?
Yeah, he's staying with Detroit as the OC.
Yeah, a lot of people thought he was going to end up in Washington.
Again, huh? Isn't this the second year in a row he's doing that?
Apparently his price tag was way too high, and he was just asking for too much. I think the media might have overhyped how valued of a candidate he was, too.
Dude, why couldn't Dave Canales follow in these footsteps? Damn it, Dave. That he had to go run off to go to Cleveland. Christ, bro. I get it. He's probably going to set his family up for life, even if he gets fired, this year. But, it's a strong possibility. You're really going to be one and done, Dave. So, best of luck over there in Carolina, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I still can't get over the fact that Mike Vrabel got fired. I'm just still confused by that.
And he hasn't gotten rehired, right?
Yeah, no, he hasn't been picked up. I think he should go, at this point, I think he should go to Seattle.
Yeah.
To me, that makes the most sense.
Between Belichick, Pete Carroll, and Vrabel, it's kind of crazy that, two of those guys, maybe all three, might not have head coaching gigs next year. But I have a feeling that whoever's in the Washington front office is might be a little bit in panic mode now. New ownership. They want to impress the fan base. They want people to be excited. They had kind of disappointing season this year. They have to at least throw a line out for Mike Vrabel. They'd be doing their franchise a disservice not to. He's too good of a coach to pass up on.
Absolutely.
Them and the Falcons are got to be in full panic mode at this point, too.
No,
I think it came out that the owner was pretty nervous.
Well, the Falcons got Raheem Morris.
Yeah.
Oh, they got Raheem Morris? Okay.
I like Raheem Morris. I think that was a good hire, actually.
I do like Raheem Morris, too. As a former guy who watched him with the Buccaneers, literally the guy went from Coach Candidate of the Year to getting fired. So I do think he can figure it out. He's had many years to mature now. Hopefully, doesn't call him Youngry at some point. I think he'll be fine.
Now, I did see this interesting stat. I'm curious if you guys both know the answer. Only one quarterback from the 2018 class has made the Super Bowl. Do you know who it is?
Patrick Mahomes.
He was 2017.
Let me think.
18.
Josh Rosen.
A
backup or something.
Well, he's a backup now, but he was a third overall pick in the draft.
Sam Darnold.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's a good one.
So I'm like, well, no Lamar, no Josh Allen, no Baker, Sam Darnold of all people makes it in.
Good old Sam Darnold, just enjoying the bench ride over there behind Mr. Irrelevant. Goes to show you, nobody knows anything about these kids coming out. It's going to be an interesting draft. Cooper, we hadn't really had your input on the whole Belichick thing since he got fired over there. You mentioned, he maybe does have a little bit more blame on his hands, and obviously it's come out that he does. So asking for this power, don't you think it's a little crazy on his part? Like, why does he want to also have, like, assuming that he's asking for GM power too? Like, dude, you clearly weren't very good at that part. Why do you want to hop back into that? Does he just have that big of an ego, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even like really saying that as a fault to him. It's like, how can you be 71 years old, been doing things the same way for like, 25, 30 years, whatever it was, and then all of a sudden you get asked to completely change the way you approach your business. Like, it's got to be something that someone like Belichick, who's accomplished so much, it's either all or nothing for him,
There you
I
go.
think it would probably cause more problems and more friction if Belichick had to relinquish some of those duties to someone who he doesn't trust, because, I mean, that's
But
just the kind of guy Belichick can be sometimes.
I mean, for what it's worth, though, like, wasn't he technically like the de facto GM his entire run in New England?
Yeah, I mean,
So
his greatest hit was starting Tom Brady.
yeah, but I mean, like, people love to, not targeting Steven as one of the people, but people over the last handful of years have been giving him grief about being a GM. Like, yeah, maybe his value as a GM has gone down over the last couple of years, but I feel like people like to forget at the success of pieces he brought in prior that have worked out. I get the last couple of years he hasn't re-signed any of his draft picks, which is a very alarming statistic that you're not retaining anybody you're drafting. But it's not like he didn't have his good years. He wasn't just coaching; he had strong drafts of bringing good guys in.
Yeah, well, I think it's one of those things where the situation, like your quarterback situation, reflects who you are as a head coach so much, when a lot of times it's something you don't have a ton of control over how good your quarterback is. But from a Patriots fan perspective, I think it's mostly the organization's fault that Mac Jones faltered as much as he did throughout the last couple of years. They did nothing to support him. His weapons never got better. His O-line consistently got worse. He changed OCs, every single year. Mac Jones was completely put in a position to fail by the Patriots, and that, to me, is kind of what defines the last, like, 4 years of this team. Even though Belichick's still bulletproof when it comes to, like, secondary, for instance. I'll trust any secondary player he drafts, corner, safety, whatever. But wide receivers has just been like the biggest disaster for Patriots drafting in the last couple of years. Not only that, but free agency too. I mean, we can usually patch up most of the holes that we don't fill by re-signing drafted players through free agency, but just consistently year after year, we've made the worst choices with throwing bags at like Nelson Aguilar, Jonnu Smith, Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker. There's just been so many missed opportunities to give our offense like a semblance of explosiveness that, it's kind of just one of those things where you can't keep making excuses for the guy. He's just not good at drafting offensive skill players or signing offensive skill players. And Tom Brady made up for that for so long.
Do you think he's still like dead set on winning one without him?
Big time. Yeah.
Just
He's
to
19. He's 19 wins, I think, behind Don Shula. And he doesn't really like Don Shula that much, apparently. They got some beef, so I think he really wants to take the win record from Don Shula, and then after that, who knows?
It's going to take another 2 years, Bill, but good luck. Well,
Maybe
anyway,
3.
at least 2. Anyway, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. We have a lovely weekend of football to look forward to, and 2 weeks from now. Thank you to Cooper, of course, for dropping in, as always, giving us amazing Patriots insight. Mr. Shades, the man on the field, in the crowd, giving us some great shorts. Please continue to like and subscribe our content, people. And we're out of here.